you arrived in Achimota with a long list of other people, but then you were the student with the highest raw score from primary school, coming to Achimota with all of the students from some of the big primary schools we have, like Morning Star, Bishop Bowers, and all of that. How did you feel as a kid from Holy Child School in Sakumono with the highest raw score in Achimota School?
Well, I mean, I guess I was a bit surprised, because like you mentioned, we are coming from like all over Ghana, some of the best schools in the country. I mean, even you mentioned some good schools, but then we had some next door to us, Corpus Christi and Queensland, right? And honestly, I wasn't expecting anything like that. I know I made it into Achimota, and like that was the end of it. And interestingly enough, I wasn't really aware of like my rank when I got there. When I remember it was during our orientation. We went to the agri chapel and then they told us now we can go and like check our marks or something like that. But I mean, I wasn't thinking about that. So I remember my dad and I were going to look at Cadbury House, and then we're passing through the administration block, like just to go and see what's there. And then people were like, like my friends, right, from Holy Child, who were also there. They came in like, "Hey, Charlie, your name is First too. Go and look at this." So it was a shock to me, and of course, instead of feeling happy, funny enough, I felt a bit embarrassed, right? Because we were standing like in the midst of other students, all the first years, the fresh guys, and he
Yeah.
came and said it. So everybody looked and was like, so this is the Basit guy. And I was like, Basit guy, bang. Like, how we just came, right? We just came, and then all of a sudden people know my name and then they are looking for me and stuff. So I mean, like looking back on it, of course, I felt happy, but at the time it was a bit not overwhelming, but like a bit let's say embarrassing, because I really wanted to keep a low profile and I wasn't able to do that thanks to that list.
Do you think having the raw score of all the people that came to Achimota in 2010, did it put some unnecessary pressure on you to perform like you did in the BC?
No, yeah, 100%, yeah. It did. I don't know whether I'll call it unnecessary per se, but it did put some pressure on me, because right off the bat, everybody knows your name, and then like even those who don't know who you are, they know your name, but they are looking for your face. So yeah, and that first term, first 2-3 terms, a lot of my introductions were like, "Oh, so you be the Bastards guy, no?" You know, so everybody sees you as okay, this is a guy, right? So I'm expecting that if I check the first term exam, I'm supposed to see him first. See that it is a situation where if you are even second, third, right, it's almost like a disappointment. You know,
Exactly.
yeah. Looking back on it, I shouldn't have cared that much, but I cannot deny it. Definitely, like there was that pressure, and I did try to like live up to it. For better or for worse. That's the story. That's how I felt. Yeah.
Yeah. So, did you have some of the girls in Achimota? I know there are lots of girls in Achimota. Did you have them coming around to you to explain some chemistry or some physics to them simply because they know that you were the guy with the highest raw score?
Actually, I think it took a while before like that's actually started happening. But for me, my first term in Achimota, I was like I'm generally more of a quiet, introvert type of person. So that was like back when I was younger. Now I think I'm improving a bit. But like back then, when I get into a new situation, I won't stand out, right? You won't hear from me. I'm not the one who go out and be like, oh, this is Ambassador and let's be friends. So I think people found it a bit hard to approach me. For the guys, yeah, it's easy. Every guys, it doesn't take much to become
Yeah.
friends. So like I'm trying like this, it was like we connected straight up because he saw a shark. And me, I saw somebody who likes Mark like to some crazy extent. So it was very easy to connect. And people like Joseph Nyamesen, of course. Joseph, they were in the same house and he saw me on the first day. So like we made connections quickly. But with the girls, I think it was difficult for those first few terms. But then I think after like third term, maybe term two, when they got more comfortable with me and I got more comfortable with it used to happen a lot more.
Great.
Mm.
So let's go back to your primary school. You were in Holy Child School in Sakumono.
Oh yeah.
Why did you decision to go to Holy Child, or why did your parents take you to Holy Child?
It was the closest to our house. That's why. It was the closest to our house. Yeah. Like I remember like I went to Bethel Nursery School. Uh,
Mm.
Bethel Nursery School. I don't know why we went there, mom, but that's where I went, and it's in Sakumono. And after I finished there, we're in the house for a couple of maybe weeks or months. And I remember that day, my mom just said, "Look, you are going to school." So she took me and we walked to Holy Child, and she just like went to put me in the class in class one. So like we just walked. So the closest place that we could see, right, was Holy Child School. And
Wow.
actually, where we were living, I could look through my kitchen window and see JSS2, like the classroom. Yeah, that's how close the school was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's. But to be honest, I don't regret it because, like, of all the schools in the area, I don't think I would have wanted to go to any other school. Holy Child was there. Holy Child was there.
What kind of teachers do you think you had? Because coming to Achimota, which is one of the best schools in the country, one of the best high schools in the country, that attracts students from
I mean, you should
everywhere.
honestly remove one off. You are being modest. You should remove the one off.
It is the best high school in the country,
Both
and
are not
it
get price.
attracts so many students from a lot of places in the country. But you had the highest raw score amongst all your friends in that batch. What do you think was so special about Holy Child School, or particularly your teachers, or what did your parents do differently to you that made you excel so much in the BC?
Okay, so I guess I can come at it with from two angles. So first, the school. Holy Child. I mean, Holy Child was not a particularly like it didn't stand out very much. And like I said, within that area, we had schools like Corpus Christi, we had Queensland, just some 20 minutes away. We had is it Christ Preparatory? They used to wear green also. There were a lot of good schools around. But then and all of these schools had and complex, Mono School complex, right? All of them had larger facilities, more teachers, higher school fees, like all of them. Holy Charles were wearing a coconte and this thing granules. Like that was our uniform for a long that was our uniform for a long time. But I
Yeah.
think that the teachers, I don't know whether it's the same in other schools, but like they really tended to form relationships with us. Like
Mm.
we had a large class size. I think we were 70 or so, which at the time was huge.
Yeah.
And they still try their best to like make sure they know everybody's name, they know the capabilities of everyone, they know how to deal with certain students. So I think that I don't know how they trained them, but like they really excelled in knowing us and then knowing how to guide us. And I don't know about now, but back then too, they were not afraid of using the cane. you know so oh yeah. I don't know whether now it has changed. I don't know, but
Yeah.
those days, there were some students who respond to lashing, and the teachers knew that. And there were those who responded more to like gentle things. The teachers also knew that. And when it
Yeah.
was coming to the BC time, right? I mean, they've done it for a long time. They've trained students for a long time. So they really made some very, very nice mocks for us. They
Mm.
simulated the BC experience and then really made sure that we wrote about 3 mocks, I think. I think we wrote about 3 mocks. And then the teachers were there with us all the way. Even on weekends, they would come to school on weekends just to make sure that we were prepared for the BC. So I think that whole attitude, that kind of commitment from the teachers, right, was really the thing. Because we didn't have facilities, to be honest. We didn't have any sports facility. We didn't have those extra classes. Like, some schools were learning music and some had basketball courts. We didn't
Yeah.
have that. So a lot of it was just the people, that the teachers. Generally that, yeah. We had some football park that was there, but it was for complex. And every day we were fighting for a half of it, but it wasn't really for us. So it was the people, the teachers, their commitment, dedication, and everything. And I mean, they are not paying them much. Societal school, they are not paying them anything, but they found their motivation, I guess, and I really appreciate that. Now, for like my parents, my home life, I've always been like inspired by my parents, because I know where they came from. And they could easily have ended up or like certain in a certain low class situation right now, if not for the way they, reinvented themselves.
Yeah.
They were both born in the north and their situations were not good at all, right? Like my dad he was fortunate that he went to high school, right? But then he
Mm.
stopped there and he got a job with a bank, but the bank was so far away. that he used to work hours to work every day. Like it was what? He used to work hours to work. And at that time, my mom wasn't like, she wasn't working. She was not educated at all. She couldn't do much. So everything was very tight. That was when my eldest brother was born. So eventually they moved down to Accra, for better prospects. And that one's safe. But my dad was lucky. He was able to get a job at Parliament House. But that one too, it was far, like two
Yeah.
hours to work every day. And looking at that situation, and then I'm even talking about just like the thing is, this situation is very common to a lot of people. But I don't want to make it too like tragic, right? But there were situations where like food crowd was not there to eat, right? And you had to work hours to go and get a bag of rice to come and cook, just rice to come and cook. No, he would come and I mean when she was pregnant with me and when my mom was pregnant with me, there were situations where he would go and he would work, right? To go and borrow money, then buy a bag of rice with that money, walk back to the house during his lunch break, walk back to the house hours, leave the rice and go. And then she will put it on some fire with the water, no, and just eat the rice. No, nothing, just rice. Just to keep, and she was pregnant with me at the time, just to keep the energy up. Then he'll go back to work on foot. And that was a regular kind of thing. So knowing this history, right? And then on top of all that, they resolved that their children will not go through that. So they really, really did their best to make sure that we had the best education they could provide. We had shelter, we had food. Like they wouldn't let us go through the same thing that they went through. Like
Yeah.
for example, my mom, like it was very common that she would carry like basins of water just to go and fill poly tank and stuff like that. But I never did that. It's not that like
You
um
couldn't have done that.
yes, it's not as if there were no opportunities where I had to do it. But she really tried that she would not make me do it. You know what I'm saying? So it gave me a lot of time to focus on my studies, even to play with my friends. Like she made sure that like I could do stuff like that, that so that provide me with that healthy childhood without a
Yeah.
lot of stress that certain people go through. And
Mm.
I believe that, and looking at all of that, I noticed, right? So in my mind, there's always been that look, there's no way that the effort that they have put into like making sure that I grow up well is going to be wasted. So it's always been at the back of my mind, even from primary GSS. I know that the effort is not going to go to waste. Definitely,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think it's working a bit. I mean, I can do more for sure, but I think that that's what's been pushing me so
Yeah.
far
So it means your parents had to sacrifice a lot.
a lot, a
You
whole lot.
actually saw that at a very young age and resolved that you're going to put in your very, very best to make sure that all the efforts that were invested in your education became something that's really tangible.
100%, 100%. Yeah, it can be heartbreaking to look back on, yeah, but yeah, that's what's been pushing me to be honest. And I think it's a way, and like I said, it's a common situation for a lot of people. We are from Ghana,
It
you
is,
know.
yeah.
Yeah, not many people are like in the middle class like that,
Mm,
and then independence was not that long ago, so it's not like we're very prosperous. So that
yeah.
situation is very, very common. You know that,
Very,
and many other parents definitely do that to their kids. So I would really hope that people who can identify with that story can kind of keep that in mind, because your parents sacrifice a lot to be able to get you to where you are. Even in situations where you feel it's not enough, right? They still sacrifice a lot. So
yeah.
it's really important for you to like just keep that in the back of your mind. Make sure that everything you are doing is towards making sure their efforts they didn't go to waste.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After high school, after 3 years in high school, you had perfect scores in the WASI as well. I learned your friends as well also did so well. What do you think contributed to you and your friends all doing so well in the WASI during your time?
So I think first of all, a lot of it is like talent, right? Like Achimota attracts a lot of talented individuals.
Mm,
So many of us had it in us already, right?
yeah.
But then in addition to that, we are talking about Achimota School. It has some of the best teachers. And of
Mm,
course, like the students are very good, some of the best facilities.
yeah.
The teachers they taught us in a way that prepared us for the WASI, you know. When they are teaching us it, like CASA, I'm sure, I believe of CASA.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, more times, so everybody knows CASA. From day one, when he started teaching us maths, his mind was always on preparing us for like these kind of exams, these kind of WASI things, always trying to focus on the critical thinking. And it's led all the way from, I think, Form 2, maybe up to like the WASI, the mock, and everything. So the teachers played a huge part in that. But then the biggest factor I would say is being surrounded by people who, they tend to make you better, right? So typically, I used to learn with people like Joseph Nyamison, Armstrong, Prosper Dutz. I mean, I believe some people working will identify some of these names,
Yeah.
right? And typically, when you're learning with people who want to learn, who kind of understand it, it makes you yourself, like, it makes it easier for you to learn, right? Because you're able to
Yeah.
fill in gaps that you didn't get, and also help them fill in gaps that they don't get. So just being around talented people and people who really want to succeed would probably be the biggest factor, at least for me and my friends, I think.
What about a student in another high school who is not surrounded by people who want to learn, but they want to succeed anyway? What would be your advice for them?
Yeah. So in a situation where you feel you are not surrounded by people who are like extremely motivated and talented, right?
Yeah.
It's a more difficult situation than I found myself in. But then it comes to you to kind of, let's say, adopt some kind of leadership, right? Because one of the things I always recommend is always form a group, always form a study group. It's far, far easier studying together than studying by yourself, always. So if you think that you're in a place where, look, nobody around me seems eager to learn, right? Just you be the one who is like, look, let's come together and learn. Motivate the other people. Okay, be the one who is like, come on, let's come together and learn. I mean, you may not get sharks. I mean, in the tradition, you may not be able to gather all the sharks in one group, but the people that you gather, if you're able to motivate them, let them see the benefit of like, learning together, right? And of course, the results will show. But then if you're able to motivate them, let's do this, right? Your results are going to be better than if you did it by yourself. That one
Mm.
day I can almost guarantee it for you. Because like me, after when I went to tech, it was me that gathered everyone together and said, let's form this study group and then let's like make sure that our grades are like as good as we can get them. I
Yeah.
could have decided I'll just study by myself, but that's what a lot of our classmates were doing in the civil engineering class. But then I felt it was really necessary. You really need that. No matter how smart you think you are, you really need that kind of support system, because you will definitely come across challenges where you feel that this person can help me, and it's better to have the framework in place, than having to maybe last minute then, oh, let's learn together. Now it's better to start with a group and then push everyone in the group contributes, towards achieving that goal. Always do that. Always do that. Even if so, like I said, even if it's you feel you're not surrounded by the right people, be the one to start the group. Okay. If you have to force them because it's for everybody's own good. Definitely your grades will improve. Now I can guarantee.
Well, so after high school, I mean, you were one of the brightest students in Achimota, finished the WASI with one of the best results. You went to KNUST. Why didn't you go outside the country?
Yeah. So as for here, there, I'll have to like share one of my regrets. So I really think, looking back, it
Yeah.
would have made a lot more sense for me to write the SAT and then, try and study abroad. So one of the main reasons was the SAT. The cost is prohibitive. Okay,
Mm.
not for everyone, but like in my situation, right, it was
You mean the
like
cost? How
the
much
cost. Yeah,
cost?
the cost. So the cost of registration, the cost of buying the books. And now it's much cheaper because the internet is just there. Now you can
Exactly.
just get from it. But back then, we're in school. We had
Yeah.
no access to any phone or anything like that. And even if you had access, right, you won't get it on YouTube. As at 2012, 2013, it wasn't really out there like that.
Yeah.
So you had to buy the books and then you had to pay for the registration and stuff. And I remember they brought the cost to us. Was it like 1,000 CDs or so? My memory is quite bad, like 1,000 CDs, I think, for everything, if I remember correctly, which was a lot, back then. So me now, I knew that if I go to my parents, like, look, can you pay for this for me? Maybe they'll scrimp and then try and gather the money
Yeah.
and do for me. But I really thought that no, I shouldn't burden them with it because already they are struggling with other things.
Yeah.
So my plan was, I'll go to tech, get some skills, and I can always save money and then write like the GRE myself,
Mm.
and then leave the country and do that. Which at least I've done that, thankfully. by God's grace. So looking back, I do feel like I should have, even if it would have made them struggle and stuff, I think I'll be in a better place than I am now if I had gone earlier.
When you say
But
better place, what do you mean by that?
so I would have, if I had left in 2013, for example, I
Yeah.
would have done a bachelor's degree and finished by 2017 in the USA, in Canada, UK, wherever. And I would have been working for what, 6 years. I mean, I would be like, I should be like, say, maybe senior engineer or something by this point. Do you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Or at the very least, I would have been working and earning in US dollars, UK pounds, Canadian dollars. And I'll be like far more advanced. I would have achieved more compared to now. So now I'm now entering the Canadian workforce as a structural engineer, right? I'm definitely going to be earning like way more than what I would have been earning in Ghana. But it
Yeah.
feels a bit like lost opportunity.
Like it's delayed a bit.
Oh yeah, no, not a bit, definitely delayed for sure, right? And it does feel that way. But then again, I'm using hindsight. Yeah, it's hard to really tell what would have happened if you had made this
Exactly.
choice. Because yeah, I also, anyone watching who maybe feels that way, sometimes when you feel that you've lost an opportunity, it helps to look back on what you actually did, right? Because in the time that I wasn't in the US and I was in tech, making some of these connections and meeting people who changed my life, and I was able to work in Accra, as a structural engineer for a bit. And I met some engineers who actually changed my life. And today, they're influencing me in some great ways. So sometimes you look back on it and then you can tell yourself, it may not have been a loss, you know. So it helps to look back and try and see the positives, in the time that you feel that you wasted. Look at the positives that you achieved and look at the good things that happened to you. And I think that will help to reduce some of that regrets. At least that's what I've found.
I definitely agree. I agree because for me, what I think I see there is somebody who was really attentive to what their parents were going through. I mean, you could have leveraged on the fact that you were brilliant at the time you had to travel, and so you wouldn't care where they found the money. They had to get it anyhow possible for you to write the SAT and then, travel outside the country. But I'm sure that you also met some really good people in the university, which we are coming to. So back again to after high school, you decided to go to KNUST to read civil engineering. You were one of the brightest students, like I said. Didn't you have any pressure to read medicine, which is like typical with most parents?
Oh yeah, oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah. The pressure was from everywhere. I think um, I'm blessed and fortunate, right, to have like the parents that I have. I remember my dad and my mom. They really have a lot of trust in me. That's one thing that I know. And they did ask me, "I want you to do medicine," and I told them, straight up, "Yeah." They will ask, yeah, and I told them, they have. It's funny. They told us we have four boys, right? They have 4 kids, and they had plans for everyone. Firstborn is going to do this, secondborn is going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and lastborn. So they asked me, "Oh, want to do medicine?" I told them, "Now I want to do like civil engineering." And I think I'm fortunate that I found what I wanted to do early.
Yeah.
A lot of the medicine pressure comes where it's like, if you don't know what you want to do, and you are good, and they tell you, you can do medicine. It's very easy to just say, "Okay, I'll go and do medicine." But for me, I knew. So when I told them, they stopped pressuring. They just, yeah, because they know like I'll do well no matter where I find myself.
Yeah.
So I'm lucky I had parents like that. I know other parents would have been trying small, they are pressuring you, Charlie, do the medicine, do the medicine. Like, trying to put the idea in your mind. I know
Yeah.
some people can identify with that. Like they'll be
Yeah.
pushing it to you small. And yeah. But my friends also were asking me, and I just said, nah, I'm not going to do medicine. It's not really in my plans at all. So yeah, there was some pressure, but not. I wouldn't say it was that much
Yeah.
for me.
Now, in civil engineering as well, you went to tech, you met several students from some of the best high schools in the country. I mean, Prempeh, Presec, so many high schools. But you were
And
best
if you
student.
don't, if you don't mention gay here, there, some people will fight with you.
Hey, sorry, Wesley girls
And
as well.
if you don't- I know some people who fight with me and some people who fight with you if you don't mention. So we
Exactly.
have to
Yeah, yeah,
cover our bases.
yeah. Exactly. But you were best student 4 years in a row. You know, like you said, from Achimota, you had the best raw score with all the primary schools, the very, very good primary schools in Ghana. You had the best raw score going into Achimota. You went to KNUST as well, read civil engineering, and you were the best student in civil engineering class 4 years in a row. Was it that you had no competition, or like you had some special cream you used in your hair that made your hair like permeable to the physics and the math you were learning? What was so special?
Alright. I would say number one was, you see, there was this gobe at there was this gobe, right? At Queens.
Queens, okay.
At Queens, yeah. That one, that's what they say. It tends to open your mind small. And oh yeah, I think that's like the number one reason, right? The number one, like I'll say the number one is like getting like the right go bestseller to really open your
Tell you.
mind constantly, go with it regularly, and then before every paper you go there and go and like settle yourself. Yeah, yeah. That's number one. But like other reasons I would say, I mean, like I said, some of it, a lot of it is like grace. I've been blessed. And another part of it goes back to what I said about having a group.
Yeah.
So I had a support system, I had a steady group, right? That we formed. I would say like the first week when we got to take civil engineering, me, Armstrong, Archibald, Bugune, Ananesia, Ejadola. And that's how we started. We're five, right? And interestingly enough, like so the main purpose of the group was we have to study together. So the plan we came up with was ideally if you are doing like 5 courses in a semester or 6 or 7 or whatever, everybody picks one. Some people will pick 2, depending on how the numbers go. And it's your job to learn the course you picked. And then when we meet, then you teach us. That was basically the plan for almost every day we used to meet to do that. And it worked. So the first semester, I remember, all of us had extremely good grades. And then they started looking for us again. You know that thing? They posted the list and they saw the names. And, oh, who is the Basit guy? Who is the Armstrong guy? You know, that kind of thing. So they started looking for us. And the following semester, people started trying to join.
Yeah.
It got to a point, I remember it got to a point where it was like we had to really filter the number of people in the group because you can't meet like 20 people and say, I come to study. It doesn't work there. But people really tried to join. Hey, like they were like going through side channels. Like somebody would go to Achibi and say, Charlie, I won't come study plus you follow. It was funny, but like, yeah, I think that would be like the biggest thing aside from the gobe. That would be like the biggest thing for me. Like just having that group and having that support system. No, I tell you, like it really makes a huge difference. People wouldn't know unless they try it, but it really makes a huge difference. It teaches you so many things. Like having that, first of all, having that sense of responsibility that if I don't learn this part and come and teach everybody, right, I'm messing up the flow of the plan for everyone. Right. It gives you that sense of responsibility, right? That sense of like diligent duty, right? And then on top of that, you are practicing how to teach, right? Because I believe we've all heard this thing before. The more you teach, the more you know.
Yeah.
So it also keeps you on track, right? You've learned it so that you can teach. And a lot of times, it didn't always go perfect. Sometimes somebody will be teaching, and then like Armstrong will be like, "Oh, no, it's not like that. It's like this," right? He can make mistakes. But then just going through that whole process, right, it improves everyone's ability. And it showed in the grade. Like if you check all of us, our performance from semester to semester, all the way up to the end. I think the group is what made the difference, yeah. But of course, individual responsibilities that you have to learn, like as an individual. You can't just depend on the group. So that was mainly it. So Gobe, group, and then learning.
I think myself, when I was in KNUST in 2007, I also enjoyed that particular gobe as well. Because then I was also in Queens, the gobe to the far right. When you enter to the far right.
Yeah. So that it means that it's not just a myth, like it's real. It's real. It's real.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, I'm sure if you ask Armstrong about it, he will tell you. Is that he was in Contigo. He was in Contio, but he knows about the Queen's Gobe. He knows. He will tell you.
Yeah. You know,
Yeah.
I I I meet students on a regular basis, and they ask me, so what should I read when I go to the university? You know, some of them I want to read medicine, some of them I want to read civil engineering, I want to read chemical engineering. For some of them, they ask you, what course did you read? Then they want to read the same thing because they either admire you or not. What would be your advice to a high school student who is probably in SHS2 or SHS3 thinking about what course they should read in the university?
What I would say is find what really interests you. You know,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be a particular course, but like I think one of the things I always tell students is like find something that interests you and try and learn it. Okay.
Yeah.
And when you're in high school, especially, it's not easy, but like the avenues are there, you
Mm.
know. And nowadays, that's I think more schools are having access to like computers and stuff. The internet is there for you. I remember at Chimota Library, at Chimota School, we had a library where like you could find a lot of books that I don't think you would find in other high schools, like high level, sophisticated books. You find books on science, you find books on geography, you find books on history. Maybe pay a visit to the library and see, just pick a book. I used to do that, like not only in Motown, but like back then, any book I see, I'm just going to read it and see what really interests me about the book, right? So find something that interests you and then just try and see if you can see yourself doing a career in it. You know, for medicine, it's easy. Like if you look at doctors and feel that, oh yeah, like I like the prestige and I like being able to work on, I don't know, brains and hearts and stuff. That one is more of an easy choice. But then if you go and you pick a book on, let's say, bridges, right? You can actually see that, okay, bridges are interesting to me. But then what can you do related to bridges? You can be a civil engineer. No, let me specify. You can be a structural engineer. You can be a transportation engineer. You can be a mechanical engineer, electrical engineer. All of these have opportunity to work, on something like bridges. Maybe you read a book on some earthquake stuff, right? Seismic design and something like that. You can focus your efforts there. Maybe you read a book on, I don't know, oil and gas, right? Maybe you've heard that Talu Oil is like this rich company that works on these projects. Then you realize, okay, I can be a chemical engineer, I can be a petroleum engineer, petrochemical engineer, I can even just do chemistry, right? And I think just finding that interest, you know, it's where people are able to find what they want to do.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, my examples have all been within like STEM kind of thing, but I believe that even within the art side, you can really find a lot of stuff. Maybe if you are doing a course that you end up doing government, then you start reading about like what's going on in the rest of the world, right? Geopolitical stuff. And like I said, the internet now it's easier. It's a bit easier to like find out some of this stuff. And I definitely think that even if you may not find the course you want to do, I think it points you in the right direction. You know, that's what I would advise them on. Because it's not always the best to follow what your role model, did. Because he's doing what he wants to do. It may not fit you perfectly. But even
Yeah.
then, you might find some guidance there. You could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about those? There are a lot of people that are really concerned about the course they read in the university and how people see them. Because if you read civil engineering or electrical engineering or medicine, it's assumed that you are very bright. You had some of the best grades. You had 8 A's or 7 A's, as opposed to some people who read some other courses. I don't want to
Oh yeah.
mention course and then
I know where your
because
mind is.
if let's say I am so bright and I had 80s and I decide to do a course that the cutoff is 24 because I love it, right? The way people see me, like, why did you do this course and all of that? Do you think students should be so concerned about how others view them, or they should actually look at what they want to do in the context of what excites them and what they can contribute in that area?
Yeah. You definitely follow what you want to do. Definitely follow what you want to do. I think part of the tragedy, like it's a bit of a sad thing in Ghana specifically. Some of these courses are looked down upon.
Mm.
Um, it's unfortunate, and part of it is like the demand for those courses in the working world is not as high, which I
Yeah,
think is a very bad thing. Like an example I think of is maths, chemistry, the pure sciences. In
exactly.
Ghana, they're not valued highly at all. Like I think it's relatively very easy to get into a chemistry program, right? Like just get
Exactly.
into
Yeah,
BSc chemistry or BSc maths. People don't
yeah.
really look highly on those courses. But outside Ghana, share. Like if you're a mathematician outside Ghana, they are the stars. Like they look down. They even look down on engineers. You see that thing. So it's unfortunate. But what I would say is the market in Ghana tends to look down on like some of these lesser courses. So when somebody, as a student, if you feel that you really want to go there, oh, but then think about your future. Like you need to start looking, like broaden your scope. I would advise that if you want to do chemistry, you are really interested in chemistry, right? The advances in chemistry are not happening in Ghana. They are not happening. It's a fact.
Yeah.
So you have to start thinking, if you want to be a chemist, right, who is making these groundbreaking discoveries in chemistry and stuff, you are going to work in America or Canada or UK or wherever. So start focusing there. Okay. If you are going to take to do chemistry, start thinking about when I finish, am I going to do a master's outside the country and go and work there? Then you plan for that. You get what I'm saying? Don't just do the course with your belief in yourself that, oh, people are laughing, I want to do that. But go beyond that and start planning how to really make it lucrative for yourself and try and make an impact. Yeah. That's what I would say. Look beyond for those let me even go outside of science, like outside of like the classical science. Psychology, right? In Ghana, the people don't really respect it. Okay.
Yeah, they
But
don't.
they don't, yeah. But look outside and see. Even within Ghana, are there opportunities for psychologists to really like practice their skills in Ghana? Start planning for that. If you want to work in a certain hospital that favors psychology, start gearing your efforts there. Because the market in Ghana definitely won't come to you. People will not come and pursue you with such a degree.
Yeah.
Even cultural studies as a course, start planning. Definitely you'll make more money in the US or Canada or wherever. So just focus your efforts there and then look at where you are going beyond university, and you will do very well, I think.
Now, let's go back to high school because I'm really passionate about kids in high school. There
As
are
you
so
should
many
be.
kids that come to high school and they want to succeed. They want to do very well. Some of them blossom very late. Some of them have very slow starts. Let's say in primary school, they have slow starts in first year in high school. But they want to excel because for some of them, when they look back at their parents and how they are struggling, like for yourself, you said your parents, had some bit of hardship, having to move around and all of that. But you had a gift. You were brilliant. There are some students who are in a similar situation as your parents were. They have parents like that, or for even some of them, they have lost one parent. So it's just one parent who is moving up and down, trying to sell this, trying to hawk here and there. But some of these kids are not brilliant. And yet they have to succeed because then, that their mother or father who is moving around is counting on them. For some of them, they may want to explore what we traditionally call APO because the questions are in, the WASI hasn't begun. It's your chance to get these questions, solve them before the main exam, and succeed like you want so that you can go and do a very good course in university, hopefully get a job as quickly as possible, and then help your parents. What would be your advice for such a student who is struggling, but at the back of their minds, they know they have to succeed and so would have to resort to things like Apple?
Yeah, it's not an easy question, but that's a tough question. So I guess I can speak a little bit about Apo. Like I can empathize with what pushes people towards that direction, right? It's fear. You are afraid of failing, you know. A lot of I mean, I'm sure if you ask people who have used Apo before, like 99% of them will not, they will say something like, I had to, right? Like otherwise I would have failed.
Exactly.
So What the thing, what I can say, you cannot really get rid of the fear, right? It's all
Mm.
about fear. That's what I'll say. You cannot really get rid of it, but then I think there are some things you can do to mitigate it. To the extent
Mm.
where you can stem the tide and really have confidence in yourself that you can do without Apple. Because Apple is it's not good. Everybody will tell you Apple is. Everybody knows Apple doesn't help in the long run. One like and for those students who are not as brilliant, for you guys, even now, you see, recently I've joined that ranks, because I've joined those ranks because like the graduate school is difficult. But for you guys, it's even more imperative for you to actually have a steady group. Okay. The thing is, nobody ever accomplishes anything by themselves. Everybody needs help. So it's really, really important for people who feel that they are not okay academically. Run to the guys who you think are good. Okay. Try and form groups that you can study in. And all of you, try and motivate each other to like really improve your grades. Get to a level where you don't need a poor. Okay. Because I think it should be obvious that if you're at a point where, let's say, an exam is over 10 and you feel that without APO you will get 1, but then the APO will take you up to like 5 or 6, right? You need a lot of improvement. You need to improve yourself a lot. Okay. Because it's definitely not good enough. So get to a point where, like even if you get 5 over 10, right?
Yeah.
Just by your own merit, get to that point and then have that confidence in yourself that I can even do better than that. And
Yeah.
like just forget about the poor. Okay. Because one of one of the things that I've learned over the years is that it makes sense to target slight improvements versus any kind of lofty goal. If you come into achievement into high school as like say your average is 2 over 10, you are like that kind of student. Why, if you try and focus on, let's say, gradually climbing up, I want to become a 3 over 10 student, 4 over 10 student, 5 over 10, get to a point, you are really improving yourself. You are getting better and better and better. I really feel that you will reach a point where you never thought was possible. You know, you don't come in
Mm.
and target that, oh, I want 7 over 10 straight away. Right. That's where the apportion gets to you. You feel that you have to get 7 over 10. You have to get 5 over 10. Right. Just from your average of 1. And that's where the motivation for it comes in. So, like, my advice generally would be really invest in trying to join certain groups, trying to worry the sharks. I mean, worry them. Like, that's why they have the gift. They are supposed to share it. Not everybody will help you, but I mean, try your best, form the group, improve yourself, improve each other, get to a satisfactory level, and then have confidence in yourself that look, I may not get 10 over 10, I may not get 9 over 10, but based on my own efforts, without any apport, when I sit in the exam hall, I can get my 5, I can get my 6. Even by God's grace, I can get my 8. Like work on that, right? And I definitely think that less people will be using Apple. I mean, I don't think you will have like 0% people using Apple, but like the number should go down drastically.
Yeah.
And so all of that, what I've just said right now is about trying to push yourself up to the point where you don't need it. Now, the other side of it, right? Learn how to let me put this in a gentle way. Learn how to accept a failure. So I'll use some of my own personal experiences. A lot of people may not know. I mean, people will be like, "Oh, you they lie," but I've had like, oh yeah, I've had terrible exam results before. I've had terrible like midterm exam results before. And a lot of the time, what happens is that people will look at it and be like, "Hey, if Barca go for over 10, then maybe I'll get 0." That kind of idea. But most of those times, what happened was I actually didn't learn, and I wasn't prepared. So when I got to the exam hall and I saw the paper, like I saw the question, I said, "Nah, I don't know this." What happened was like I just let myself fail. I sat down and I said, "No, look, you deserve this. You didn't learn. That's why you don't know. So do what you can do and just submit the paper. Get your 4 over 10, get your 5 over 10 or whatever. And let it be in your mind that it's because of you. You did it. Like you didn't learn. That's why you were not able to get like what you wanted to get." And me, it has helped me to keep that in the back of my. I remember all those failures I'm telling you. I remember each and every one of them. And like it's part of what keeps me serious. Like I know that I don't want to get that again. I don't
Yeah.
want to get that bad result again. So it kind of motivates me to like just learn. You know what I'm saying? Like try and improve myself and get to the point where I'll never have to. Because in those situations, all of them, I could have turned back and ask somebody and I'll get some marks. But then I just try to absorb it, take that pain because it's painful. Like you just sit exam hall inside there. And people know that feeling. I know it's a very common thing. Like you just sit exam hall inside. The question day in front, you don't know what you will write. You have
Yeah.
hours, but you can't write anything. You don't know, right? It's a very painful thing. You take the paper and give it, knowing that you will get like 4/10 or 2/10 or whatever. So if you are able to take that, like absorb it and keep it as a lesson, and then you combine that with like, the constant improvements mindset I'm talking about, I think the usage of Papa will go down like drastically. It will reduce. That would be my advice for such students. You may not get 10/10 like ever in your lifetime, but if you're always improving yourself, you will exceed your expectations for sure.
There are some students